Hey everybody, welcome back to Son of a Witch Podcast with your favorite podcast host, Mike D and Rania. So Rania is sleeping currently because if you recall from last week's episode, if you listened, if you didn't, what the hell? But if you recall, Rania is a good bit ahead of me as far as time goes. She is in Greece. And they are they are exactly 7 hours ahead of us on the East Coast here in the States. So right now, when I'm finishing up this editing, about to drop this episode, Rania is fast asleep because she is a busy gal and she does lots of really good things for her and others in Greece, and so she needs her rest. So I'm going solo on this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So other than that, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got a lot of guests this week. And when I say a lot of guests, I mean a lot of guests this week. So many guests. And we're so excited about it that we just can't contain ourselves. This show grew to great heights during season 1. And just 2 weeks into this with my co-host Rania, Season 2 has proven to be amazing, off the charts. So everything that we were moved to do, that we received messages about from Deities, Spirit, etc., that you have heard some of on part 1, and you're going to hear some more about it on part 2. But all of that has come to fruition and has proven very, very fruitful, and we're ecstatic about it. We get to spread the word about witchcraft. We get to spread the word about the pagan community. We get to talk about different interesting topics. And my gods, y'all are not going to believe, and I just got real southern. That's when you know I'm being dead serious. Y'all are not going to believe some of these guests that just since part 1 aired last week, we got to agree to come on the show. Major guest. And we can't wait. So we're getting all that in order behind the scenes. We've got some new additions to the Son of a Witch team that I cannot wait to tell you about. So, Season 2 brought the advent of a new co-host, the amazing Rania, my little sis, who I just think the world of. It's also, Rania and I have been led to ask one of our friends, someone that we love her dearly, oh so much do we love her, a Cabot sister of ours, to be our in the field correspondent. They are in and around Salem, and they are going to be covering events that happen there, Cabot rituals, parades, even if it's non-witchy related. If it's happening in and around Salem and it's something that we think you would be interested in hearing about, they're going to be there and they're going to cover that. Their first debut will be after their first debut is going to be after Ostara. They're going to the Ostara ritual that the Cabots are doing, and they've got a lot of questions and things in mind, and they're hoping to get some really good content. So that's going to be a fun segment that we're going to be doing. It won't be necessarily a weekly thing, but as soon as we get some information about something that's going down, we will have her do that and come on the show with it. Also, we have another Cabot sister, an amazing soul who, again, we love and adore this person. And it was an obvious choice to ask them to come on the show to talk about their specialization in the craft. That led to Deity more or less telling me that you're an idiot because you've got this person who is so adept and masterful at what they do. Why not have them come on and be the show's kind of in-house expert, so to speak? So that's what we're doing. This person is amazing with astrology. Amazing. They did a birth chart for me that was not even a full extensive one, but was one of the best that I've ever read. So we're going to have them come on. They're going to talk about astrology. They're going to talk about the different facets of astrology, how it plays into your life. Again, may not be a weekly segment, but it's going to be something on a regular basis that comes on. We're not going to name the names of those people yet. We're going to keep you guessing. But yes, Son of a Witch is fast becoming a an entity all of its own, it seems. We're just kind of at the head of the ship, I guess. So we are surrounding ourselves and inviting into this journey and this team, which is Son of a Witch Podcast, like minds, people that we respect and admire and just love. So it's really cool how that's playing out. I couldn't be happier about that. Also, we have, I'm trying to think. We've got so much has happened this week that it's hard to keep track. Oh, that's the other thing. Thank you for flooding us with messages about last week's episode 5, Deities, Spirit, and Vision O My, Part 1. So we couldn't be happier. You all stepped up in true form and just made us feel so thankful and just humble by everything that you said. So it surprised me too, because I was really terrified when I had to take that hiatus, and it ended up going longer than I wanted because my gods, I missed this show. But I was really terrified that people would get bored or forget about the show, and that it would be almost like starting all over again. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I don't know if all of you were just patiently waiting or what, but wow, it's been amazing. So thank you so very much. Rania and I are so happy to be doing this for all of you. Now, moving on from that, the website is back up, www.sonofawitchpod.com. On there, you will find Rania's Muses Realm page, where she's going to be putting all the card pulls and readings that she does. You're going to find the, we called it Mike's Magical Garden, and that's going to be where all the herb of the week is housed. There's a lot of pages on that website, a lot of information on there. We're going to be posting show notes, pictures of things that we talk about, and you can also listen to the episodes there. You can see some of the YouTube channel stuff there. It's I would like to say that it's really well done. The person that made this website did a great job. It doesn't matter that it's me, but they did a great job. So check that out, www.sonofawitchpod.com. If you listen on Apple, which we know most of you do because our analytics that our platform host gives us tells us, what devices, what region of the world they're in, that sort of thing. We know that most of you listen on Apple devices. So if you do listen on Apple, do us a huge favor. We don't normally, I've rarely ever asked for anything from any of you. I want to give. I'm not doing this to receive, more or less, but I am going to ask for this. Apple reviews help us, any podcast, but help us tremendously. So if you have time, do a quick review. If you don't have time to type one out, go ahead and just do a star review. If you do have time to type one out, even better. But yeah, Apple reviews help podcast in a major way. It helps them attract sponsors. It helps them move up in the rankings, which helps them get noticed more, which also in turn leads to attracting bigger and better guests for content. So yeah, that would be fantastic. If you listen on whatever platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, if you could just follow and subscribe on YouTube, subscribe and like, and those things will keep you in the know when new episodes and content release, but it also helps us as well in that same vein that I was just speaking about. So free of charge, doesn't cost you a dime except a few minutes of your time, and we would be so incredibly grateful. So thank you if you have time to do that. Aside from that, follow at Son of a Witch Pod, follow at Muses Realm on Instagram, check out the Facebook page, and without further ado, I'm going to jump right into things. So I will tell you that it's not going to be a full segment because of time for the remainder of this episode. But the upcoming lunar cycle, we're going to start doing that as well. And on Friday, the 18th, you're going to have the full moon. It's almost there Thursday night, but definitely on Friday is the main day. So charge your crystals, make some moon water, take a moon bath, do some manifestation work, get all that stuff in line and ready to go for Friday so you don't forget. And aside from that, what's flicking my wand? I will say that I am waiting, should be any day now, for a book by someone who I greatly respect and admire. I actually took classes through the tradition that they and a couple of others founded before I became a Cabot, and I have followed them since. So the person I'm talking about is Storm Fairywolf, author, warlock, teacher, Reiki master, covers the gamut, but has a lot of books out there, and a new book coming out called The Witch's Name, which kind of takes a deep dive into what it means to create a magical name for yourself, how to go about doing that, and even hands-on exercises in the book that kind of walk you through and help you. So I cannot wait for that book. I am so excited to read that, and that should be here any day. Once I'm done with it, I plan to do a review here on the show, and I would love at some point, because I'm sure all of you would just love picking this person's brain, but would love to have Storm on the show. So Storm, if you're listening, or if anybody you know is listening, let him know. Hit me up. Me and Rania would love to have you on the show. So another person that's flicking my wand, let me rephrase that. Another thing that is flicking my wand is a new upcoming book by an author that I adore, Madame Pamita. Madame Pamita has numerous books out, one of which you've probably seen me on the Instagram page numerous times talking about, and that is Candle Magic. It's a beautiful, gorgeous purple book with gold lettering on the outside, but inside it's probably one of, if not, it may be actually the best book I've ever read on the topic of candle magic. It is phenomenal. Madame Pamita has a new book that I have waited since over a year, I think. She announced that it was coming, but it's called Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft, and it's Slavic magic, folklore, things like that, and talking about Baba Yaga. So it's an amazing book. I can't wait to get my hands on that. It comes out in April, and so looking forward to that. And we'll also be doing a review of that book as well when I'm done with it. Other than that, nothing really boiling my cauldron. Still living at the beach, still loving it, still liking my job. Super dog tired at the end of every day, but yeah, I can't complain. I'm living my best life. Have an amazing co-host. Have just added 2 new team members to the Son of a Witch team, and it's just, things are going in directions that I never would have guessed, and that Rania and I can't even imagine. So again, thank you for all that. Be sure to keep up with everything on the Instagram page, Facebook page. Check out the website. Follow us on all those. Leave us a review. And other than that, we just want you to sit back and enjoy the show. We talk about some really wild experiences that she and I have had separately, and that those separate events have at times coincided, and detail for detail, I mean. So I hope you enjoy it. Lots of juicy stories and fun topics. And until next week, talk to you then. And the other thing, back to the not disliking or hating anyone, you don't have to. Again, we don't like the patriarchy. Again, we don't like the discrimination and the oppression that has come from this particular organization. But at the same time, you don't have to not be friends with someone who is Christian.
Well, that's the thing. Where I am, I have a lot of friends who are Greek Orthodox, but we don't have, and they know what I do, that I am a practicing witch, but they still can't figure out why I respect all religions without bashing anything, so to say.
I mean,
you can coexist.
You can, and you should.
If honestly. You want to. Of course. And have respect for all religions, I guess.
That's the way I look at it.
And that's how I see it. In order to have someone respect what you do, you should respect what they believe in as well.
And going back to learning the history of witches and witchcraft, and even if you are interested in something shamanic related or druid or anything like that, if you're going to go into it, learn the history of it. But just like in that same vein, that's why I like theology, because if I do get in a conversation with someone else, I at least know what they think, or not what they think, but what they believe, what they practice, what they follow, things like that, so that I can kind of get an intelligent conversation or even a friendly debate, about the differences and things like that. But it shouldn't. I know some people, and some I don't know, I've just met and encountered, but it seems that there is a stigma, and this was not even intended, but it seems there was a stigma in our community, the pagan community in large, that because of the things that have happened historically and experiences certain people have had personally and everything else, they think that you have to just be, it's us against them. And it's really not. And I keep saying Christianity because that is the one that people tend to kind of, at least in the States, kind of go to. And Christianity, keep in mind, encompasses Catholicism and, a broad group of subsets of Christianity. So anyway, just needed to get on my soapbox. I guess we can call that what's boiling my cauldron for this week. But yeah, just stop doing that, because basically all it does is makes you an asshole. Don't be an asshole. Assholes don't listen to Son of a Witch. So, but yeah, just get along with it and understand. Here's the thing. If I followed that mindset, I'd basically tell I'd say probably 99% of my family to fuck right on off. So, and a lot of my friends too. And I have friends that are atheists. I have a friend that's atheist that she's like, she has views on witchcraft. We won't go into that. She and I have some fun debates, but yeah, you just get along with everybody. Just falls in line with gatekeeping. And Rania, people on this show know my opinion on gatekeeping. I can't stand that garbage bullshit. It just pisses me off. And, if you start out a sentence with me, well, I'm so powerful because my family, then I'm just going to go ahead and cut you off right there.
I believe we're all,
even if you
we all have the capability.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
we all do.
I think we all are born with the ability to be psychic. I think it's just beaten out of us over time as something that is imagination or make believe. But yeah, I think children, because they haven't been tainted by the world's views on magic or things like that, I think that's why they have invisible friends. Who's to say it's not the Fae, or who's to say it's not, them seeing an ancestor or so.
Well, kid on one of my personal encounters with my son came running into my room saying, I saw a silver man in the kitchen. And I'm like, huh? He's like, come to the kitchen now. He's like, someone's in there. And it was basically, when we went to Delphi, he picked out a silver statue of Apollo. He's like, that's who I saw. So it's like kids are very open, all that. And that's why we all have that capability, and that we all have the capability of being psychic and connecting with whatever you want to call it. You want to call it the universe, you want to call it with gods, goddesses. We're all capable. But ego has no place in that.
No, if you ever get to the point, and what I was going to say is, even if you've traced it back and you've got like documented evidence that yes, you do come from a long line of witches or whatever, that's great. And sure, that could add to your innate ability to do certain things. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't, but when you start out a conversation like that, you're just posturing at that point. You're just trying to be egotistical. I've had people tell me that. I had one girl tell me one time that she was more powerful than anybody else in the group because, blah, blah, blah. And oddly enough, a lot of her recounting of her past family and everything else oddly seemed very similar to Sabrina. It was just weird. But I've been in a group before, and this kind of falls under gatekeeping and just not being so judgy. I mean, we're witches. We're supposed to be accepting of most and all things, and be about love and nature and everything else. So let's do that, because I was in a group one time where I had been in there maybe a week, and at the time I had this was right at the height. COVID had just popped off, and I had been making masks for friends and family, and people started wanting to buy them. They were like comic book masks and all sorts of fun designs, but they were very well made and triple layered and all this stuff. So I started selling them on Etsy. I would donate one mask to every one that I sold. So I ended up donating over like 2,000 masks. So I sold a shit ton of masks.
Wow.
And I wasn't selling it for a lot of money. It was just basically, I had figured out what each one cost, and I would make like $1 off of it, But I had named the Etsy shop the Crafty Warlock. I just thought it was funny. My son had come up with a cool logo. Well, in this group, I mentioned that, and they're like, "You're an oath breaker," and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, here we go with this stuff again," And they got into this whole. It became, for lack of a better phrase, a witch hunt. And I quickly noticed that I was one of maybe like 2 or 3 other guys in this big group, and I hadn't realized that at first. But they basically, it was very clear that they didn't feel like men had any place at all in witchcraft. One of them even said as such. And I said, well, a warlock, you can follow that old way of thinking, oath breaker, all that stuff. I said, but if we follow the old way of thinking on everything with the craft, we're going to have to change more than just that. And one girl, she said, well, next thing you know, you're going to say you're a wizard. That's only true in like Harry Potter, And I said,
but
do you realize there's witches
history
in Harry Potter, right? Like
exactly.
you did watch that, correct? And so it was just, but yeah.
Well, that's another thing. You have to read up into history, because here in Greece, a lot of the priests at main temples were men.
Oh, yeah.
You had your priestess and you had priests, so which held very sacred ceremonies till this day, are very kept secretly, like what they used to do. And most of them were men, the majority.
And this is what I found out, Rania, when I started the podcast, is I was worried. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts. But then I realized you can Google any subject and put podcast behind it, and there's most likely going to be a podcast about it. And what's interesting is that as many podcasts as there are about each subject, they're all in some way different. Sometimes it's a good difference. Sometimes it's a bad difference. There are some podcast hosts that I've friends with, and I listen to their show. They don't edit at all. I used to work with someone that they literally recorded in their car. Granted, it wasn't their fault, so I'm not judging them for that. But because of that, the audio quality was just horrific. And that's why I had background music and stuff. It's not to try and be all fancy. It's just I try to make the show the way I like to listen to it. But yeah, I totally got off on a tangent with that, as I tend to do, just things that kind of irk me. But yeah, just love each other, be accepting of one another. Who gives a shit what people do? Just let it all kind of mesh together. What else are we going to talk about, Miss Rania? I'm trying to think if we missed anything that we wanted to let them know about.
Do you want me to get into how Artemis kind of found her way? Like how gods, when they demand something, how you can't kind of run away from that?
Yeah, you go ahead and tell that one, and I'll follow up with one too.
So when you're working with gods or goddesses, they can become kind of bossy. And when they demand a few things, the way Apollo told me, you're coming home. I found a way, got home, Delphi. His sister, Artemis, through meditation, they had a fit with me, wanting to be on his altar or having a separate altar for her. Like I said, I wasn't ready. I was really focusing on trying to establish and finding my way with Apollo. And when I did go to Delphi and had that amazing experience, I had a woman at a shop. Like I said, the gods were talking to me through people. And one of the examples was the woman at the shop. She's like, well, you're going to buy a bust of Artemis. And I'm like, why? Like, why should I? I really don't want to right now. She's like, no, you need to, because they both go together, which it does make, because that they're twins. One, Artemis made it known that she wanted in a meditation that she wanted to place on my altar. And she kind of got that way through a woman telling me, you're going to buy it, because they belong together. They each represent something and become a whole. So she got her way either way. And when it's like, when they want something, they will find a way to get it no matter what. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And she was like, yes, you are. I'm going to find a way. And she even came to me and said, I told you I'll find a way. And I'm like, okay, you have a place on Apollo's altar and you both are together. And it does make sense that they do belong together. It's just it wasn't something that I wanted at that time. Or having Zeus telling you, you're going to go to the mountain whenever you can. And I'm like, well, I can't now. Like, the weather's really bad. He's like, well, I don't care. You're going at some point. And when you do, I want this, and this to happen, and I'll leave you something. I haven't gone yet. I will be going soon. So I'll see what's going to happen then.
Well,
they have their way.
If you don't make it before I get there, we'll just have to go together.
They have their way. Yeah, they have their way. When they want something, they get it. They get it either way. I'm being called back to Delphi for some reason again, which hopefully this summer I'll be able to go again. And if not to Delphi, to the other temple that's near me, which is closer, which is also the Temple of Apollo. It's the only temple in Greece that is facing Delphi, so that makes sense if I can go there and see what is being asked.
Well, and sometimes, as we've discussed a little bit in this episode already, but sometimes when you do what they ask of you, they reward you pretty quickly. I mean, you kind of see, and one example is this show. I was just thinking about that earlier today because I knew that I was being called. It was basically more or less, and this was Kate. First, she wanted me to make an altar for her. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I did, that's pictures people may have seen. If not, I'll try to post them again. But we have a Great Dane chocolate lab mix, a big, tall black dog, and he lays or sits in front of that altar all the time. Like all the time. Does not and my other dog will sniff around if I leave an offering or something on there. The black mm-hmm. one's just kind of noses him away. I mean, it's pretty funny. But her thing was that I was being told basically to share my knowledge, that there are other people that might be able to benefit more or less from what I know or what I've experienced and things like that. And I was very much, and again, synchronicity, but our conversation earlier, our mm-hmm. guest mirrored this a little bit, but I was very much like, well, A, I'm not a teacher, and B, I'm just Mike. I mean, I'm not some huge pagan author, and I'm not I don't have my own tradition, or mm-hmm. I don't understand why anybody would want to listen to what I know or what I talk about. And she kept on and kept on and kept on and kept on and kept on, and her voice got louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And eventually when I did it, well, I mean, we're just at the beginning of season 2, and I've already had a few big people on, and this season we're already busting out with more big people. And that's what I was thinking about earlier. I would never have had the chance, even though I know someone that's friends with this person, I would never have had the chance to be able to just sit down and pick Christopher Pinsack's brain. I would never have had the opportunity to engage one-on-one, face-to-face with some of the people we're going to have coming up on this season, had it not happened. So it's obviously being received, and I have seen in ways through messages and emails and things like that it has helped people in different ways, which is nice, and that's rewarding. But yeah, so all that to say, a lot of times you may do it and you may not see a reward, but a lot of times you will. So it's always worth the gamble. But either way, I've never succumbed to, a demand or order from a deity and it been anything. It might not be something in the moment that I'm thrilled about, but I eventually see the reason behind it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, Apollo was telling me, like you said with Akate, wanted you to teach and kind of get out there. He kind of said the same thing to me, and I'm like, how? I mean, I do guide a few people who ask. He's like, no. Your light, like shed your light. And I'm like, what does he mean? And all of a sudden, I'm co-hosting this podcast with you. So it does make sense. There is a master plan. There is a plan behind everything and a reason behind it all.
Well, and that goes back to, and I am fairly certain that between Zeus, Apollo, and Poseidon, the three of them in some way, shape, or fashion are all kind of pulling strings, leading us somewhere, wherever that may be. I mean, Rania and I kind of share the same sentiment. We've both been, and the funny thing is that we don't really know exactly how, but we've both been called to serve in some capacity, and not just in a minimal kind of lightweight type way, but we've talked about it at length. We've been called to more or less, I don't think it's putting it lightly to say, dedicate our lives to path and the craft and even our chosen tradition. And so you have to just kind of
go with the flow.
Yeah, view things in the lens that you're going to. I mean, this episode was more a lot of just stories and stuff, and that's kind of what I kind of hope the podcast to eventually mesh into. Is, I want it to be informational, but I want it to be conversational at the same time. So it's a little bit different format than what, if you've been listening since the get-go, it's a little bit different format than you're used to, and that's one thing I love about this. And I'll give one final kind of story, and then we'll wrap this up so Rania can get about her day, because keep in mind, it's morning there, everybody. I'm getting ready to go to bed. But I'll give one last thing, just as kind of an insight to this, and then we'll wrap it up and have some closing thoughts. But in the vein of being told to do something and being resistant to it, I remember very clearly when I was told that son of a witch, and this is exactly, literally, I was laying in bed and I had my white noise playing, and in my head popped, son of a witch is getting a co-host. And I'm like, and also in my head I go, no, it's not. Literally, this is how this conversation went. And I remember laying there, like a few minutes later, it goes, son of a witch is getting a co-host. And I'm like, I've always said I'm not having a co-host, so no, the fuck it's not. And it was almost like it kept getting louder and louder, so that I'm laying there and I'm starting to doze off at this point. It was like, you're going to add a co-host. And I was like, it was almost that moment like, fuck, let me put my glasses on and wake up for a second now, because this is obviously a conversation we're going to have. And I remember sitting up in bed and I was like, and the funny thing, it was Zeus that said it. And again, listener, I didn't hear like Zeus's booming, Michael, it was nothing like that. It's just kind of like implanted into my brain. But anyway, I remember going, okay, so why do I need a co-host? Because I don't want to have to deal. And my whole thing was always not that I was selfish or egotistical about it. It was just, my schedule can be a little chaotic, as Rania has seen this week. And I feel awful when I put someone else out or disrupt their schedule because of mine. So that's always been my biggest fear. And the other fear was, this show, I literally equate it to like, I took this little seed out of my brain that was planted there, and I just kind of built it into all this, and it would take a great, and that's what I said it would take a massive amount of trust in someone for me to be able to bring on a co-host. And this is literally how it was responded to. Well, that's good news. And the next thing I know, literally, I had my phone in my hand and I got a notification unrelated to this. But when I first opened up Facebook, you had posted a picture, your face popped up, and I was like, seriously?
It's the sign.
and over the course, and I won't go into great detail because this conversation went on for a while, but over the course of the conversation, it was kind of made clear, like, yep, like I told Rania, the show is, and I'm not saying this in a braggish type way, it's just a fact, and Rania's seen it, but the show has grown to such a point now that I can't really do it alone anymore. Do I want to hire an editor and, a producer and a social media person? All those things, I don't know if it's good or bad to say that they exist, but they do. And I can't do that because I can't send a clip off to someone to edit it and trust that they're going to cut out the things I would and leave in the stuff that I would, and etc. And I have OCD and I'm a bit of a control freak. So that's incredibly hard for me to do. So, and that was my other thing. I'm like, I don't know that I would be fun to work with because I'm worried I would be a control freak, but the concerns were alleviated as soon as I approached Rania about it, because that's another funny story, because she had more or less, like she just told you, kind of had not specific, but knew that something was coming up, that she needed to kind of step out of the shadows and into the spotlight, so to speak. And, boy, did she step into the spotlight, because Mike's like, oh, and behind the scenes, guys, I'll be honest. And she and I really are like brother, sis. So it kind of works out, but I'll sit there and go, all right, now you need to speak up more. I need you to come into the conversation. I'm sitting here coaching her like I'm a director of a movie or something. And I'm like,
well, it's something
you're doing great, and you're doing great, but they want to hear, your voice, and they, and I'm sitting here getting off the call going, she's going to fucking hate me.
Well, it makes sense. I'm stepping out of my shell, kind of like being out there. Which is something that I don't do. And
listeners, I want you to follow in suit with what I'm asking you. And they tend to kind of rally when I ask for something, but message in on the Instagram page at Son of a Witch Pod, or you can go on the Facebook page or whatever, but we'll be posting stuff about this episode, and go on one of those posts and let Rania know what an amazing job she did. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the first conversation we had, and granted, it was her very first time ever doing anything like this, so she was a champ, but you could tell, and I even told her this, I was like, you did wonderful, but I can hear the nerves in your voice, like, and so I had to kind of remind her that we can't see what you don't understand. And, if you don't follow the Instagram page, you definitely don't know this, but we are gorgeous. Like, we are just fucking gorgeous specimens of the human body. And, you guys could all be like crazy looking. We don't know. But it doesn't matter because we don't see each other. You could be gorgeous too. Probably not as gorgeous, but you could be. But we don't get to see that. So that's the thing about podcasting. You don't see the audience. You interact with them, but it's after the fact. So, and plus at the end of the day, if anybody ever messages and says, hey, that show sucked, it's our show. So fuck off, and we'll just block that person. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so she's done a great job. And this episode, she really kind of blew me away. I don't know if she like drank some wine early in the morning when she got up or what, but she was on
coffee.
She was on her game and like just doing this like a professional. So kudos to her. I'm glad to have her on. I hope that everyone enjoyed hearing us just ramble on about all sorts of wild experiences, but it was conversational. It was just kind of sharing some things that have happened with us, between us, interconnected, etc. But also to let all of you know that these things are real. Just like magic is real, as most of you know. And if you're just coming into this and you're kind of like, is magic really something tangible? It is. Are you going to shoot like sparks out of your fingers? no,
No.
if you're thinking that, then you need to stop eating the mushrooms. But I promote, psychedelic therapy, but in small microdoses. So, but yeah, you're not going to do anything like that. You're not going to fly on your Nimbus 3000 and play Quidditch. As much as that pisses me off, because I would love to fucking play Quidditch, but no, you're not going to do that. But it is real. And if you get the groundwork that you need, you learn the history of it, you start with the basics, casting of a circle. Again, don't have to, but we recommend it. If you start with the basics of a spell and how it's composed, and, just start, it's going to be slow. It's going to be at times kind of monotonous and like, when do I get bullshit? But when you do that first spell and you see the results of it, and especially if you live with someone or are in a relationship with someone like I am, who is a muggle. I'm a Harry Potter freak. Most of you know this, so deal with it. But she's a muggle and I'm magical. So it's interesting when she is very scientific. So she sees the science behind it. But it's very fun when I can like say, okay, watch this, and do something the night before, and the very next day it has like manifested itself, because it's very hard for her to dispute certain things like that. If you walk in on a seance and you see all four legs off the ground floating, pretty indisputable that something
magical is happening.
Magical and fantastical is just going down at that particular moment. Not to mention that you got an unseen force hanging out in there with you. So, be on your best behavior, because those of you that heard me talk about my experience when I first walked in on my grandmother and my aunts, me and my cousin thought it was funny. We were scared, so we were making nervous jokes, and the table shot across the room and cornered us. Didn't hit us or anything, but literally stopped an inch from us, dropped to the ground, more or less just like to say, am I real now? And yeah, so that's after I cleaned my undergarments out, got a fresh pair of pantaloons, I was right back in there trying to do it myself. But yeah, be respectful, be indignant in the fact that you're going to learn the things you need to learn. And yes, definitely be humble. Leave your ego at the door. You could be the most badass witch, magician, whatever you want to call it, on the planet, but you go into it acting like that with a deity, and 9 out of 10 times they're either going to not want to have anything to do with you, or they're going to go out of their way to point out that you ain't as bad as you think you are. So it's just best to just kind of be humble. We're going to wrap this up. I hope that you enjoyed this. And we'll, like I say, I think I was joking earlier, but the more into this episode we get, I think it would be fun to just kind of, because there's lots of experiences and stories that we've shared even with one another that I'm sure we're not thinking about right now. But I think it would be fun to do a little segment, even if it's not every week, just when it happens. We'll just kind of clue you in and be like, breaking, I don't know, we'll think of something cool and quirky to call it. But basically just when we'll give you a news flash when we have some kind of synchronous type event that happens, or a dream or a vision or something like that. We're going to be doing some really cool episodes. It's going to be, if I'm looking at the calendar in my head correctly, I forgot to turn the lights on in there though. I think it's like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks before we're recording with our future guest that we talked to earlier. Once we record that, it'll probably come out that following weekend. Our release dates are probably going to be, and until we kind of figure this out a little better, and that's mainly on my end because of my day job, but until we figure it out a little better, they're going to come out sometime on a weekday, Monday through Thursday. We're just going to say that. And then sometimes with a guest episode, or if it's maybe our first full episode together and we just both kill it because we're just like full of all this stuff we've been dying to tell. So we just talk for, I don't know, 2 hours. And most episodes are about an hour. So Mike's going to have fun. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to give you a little background and, just see how our personalities kind of mesh with one another. She and I are ride or die besties, and she's my little sis, and I love her to death. And I couldn't have picked a better co-host, honestly. And I'm not just saying that, and I don't mean that to offend any of my other close friends or anything. All of y'all are awesome sauce. Yeah, it requires a level of trust that I have with her. So we're going to do really awesome things. There's also going to be other segments, and we kind of ran out of time today, but we're going to bring back the magical herb or crystal of the week. Going to be doing, and did you come up with a name for it yet?
Muse's Realm.
We're going to be doing the Muse's Realm segment, where Rania will have picked a card or cards for the upcoming week that will kind of give you some guidance of what to expect and things like that. She is a whiz at the cards. I dabble. Mine is more spiritual. You give me a spirit board or a table to do some seances or table tipping with, or a pendulum, or even some Lenormand cards. I'm down with that. But tarot, I'm a little hard on myself because I want to know it as well as I can. And as you well know, that is a long road. So I leave cards in Rania's well capable hands to guide all of you. And then we will occasionally, won't be every week, but if we have something we're excited about, and not for us, but something we're loving or enjoying, or if we just decide that week, you know what, we're pissed and we just want to, ream somebody out about something, vent, so to speak, then we'll bring back what's flicking my wand and boiling my cauldron. Probably going to be doing powerful practitioners of past and present again. Lots of different little things like that we'll be adding. So bear with us. We're getting the format down, kind of getting our sea legs, so to speak, underneath us as the most badass podcasting team in the pagan community on the airwaves currently. Yeah, I said it. And what? Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything you want to add, sis?
That I'm looking forward to this. And if anybody does want something to be on topic, they can also message us if they want to know something more.
Exactly. We would actually love, because we were just talking about this, I think yesterday. She's in the same vein as me so far on this show. I know some podcast hosts that plan their topics like weeks and weeks and weeks out in advance. I know some that will even plan their entire topic list for the entire season. I am way, way, way beyond, not even close to being that organized. Plus, I don't really follow topics, and it was refreshing to see that you're the same way, but I don't really follow topics as in planning them far in advance. Honestly, my topics just kind of come to me, whether it be through my thought process or whether it be spirit or a deity just kind of saying, hey, look, this is kind of where I want you to go this week. That's where it happens. And she's indicated, and I've seen that she's very much the same way. So that works out really well. So you're just going to have to bear with us. There may be some weeks where you might not know what the topic's going to be until the show releases. And actually I kind of like that. I kind of like the mystery of that. So I'm toying with ways to do that too, but lots of fun things coming. But yeah, follow on Instagram at Muses Realm, and that's MUSESREALM. Hey, look at that. Got it all on the first try. That's awesome. And then if you're not already, you can follow at Son of a Witch Pod. We're trying to figure out a way. We've got Rania added to the Son of a Witch Facebook page, but trying to figure out a way to get her added to the Instagram page. But in the meantime, she may post from Muse's Realm and just tag the page in it. So you're going to see things from both of us. We are on, and it works out really well actually, but we are on 2 different time zones. We're about 7 hours apart. So if you have a question, like she said, comment, topic that you want us to cover, definitely message us. You can go to at Son of a Witch Pod or at Muses Realm to do that. And we would love to have that. If you have a experience you want to share, if you want to, you think you've got enough, that you can talk about that is worthy of not worthy, but worthy, I mean as in time constraints. If you've got, say, 45 minutes, something you want to talk about, then hit us up. If you want to come on the show, we can look into having you on the show too. Aside from that, once the web page is back up and running, which it will be here very soon, everything will be back up going good. We'll have stuff that we'll post. If we talk about it and have pictures of it, we'll post it on the webpage. But yeah, if you have a question, you need a little more clarification, you want some guidance on something that you don't really understand, then hit us up. We would love to do that. Oh, and that was the other thing I was going to say is in the past on the website, I had a number where I have a Google Voice number that I give out. And if you ever have, say, like you've listened to a topic that we did and you have a similar experience that you think people would be down to listen to, or you think is really cool or interesting, then you can call and leave a voicemail, and we may put it on the show the following week just as a follow-up. And I would actually love to have people start doing that. I'm going to ask you to come on the show to answer the question for you. So there's all sorts of things that we're going to be doing. The merchandise is going to get going again. I'm going to put my head together with Rania and come up with some new designs for some things for the new season. And just keep in mind that any of the merch that you buy for the show goes to the coffers of the show, meaning that any money we make from this show doesn't go to making us rich, doesn't go into our pockets. It goes into an account to help us buy equipment, to help us purchase editing software or things like that. First order of business is we've got to get Rania set up with a good mic and maybe even a laptop or a PC or something over there. So keep in mind that anything like that, that's what it's for. It's not us trying to be greedy. If you do, I don't really ask. I did it one time and I don't like to, but if you ever do want to donate to the show, there is a link on the Instagram bio where you can do that. It's up to you. You don't have to. We do this just to kind of spread awareness and kind of share with everybody, but it does help us keep the lights on, as people like to say, the show, and it helps us grow. Aside from that, we will be, if you're interested, say you have a business, you are one of those entrepreneurial witches that we're talking about, which we know a lot of, and we are one of ourselves. If you do that and you want to have maybe 30-second to a minute ad run at some point during one of the shows, then hit us up at one of the places we just mentioned, and we can send you some information and talk about that. I've never done, as you know, ads or sponsors before because I didn't want it to get annoying, and still we're not going to do more than 1 or 2 per show. So it's not going to be intrusive, but it is a necessity at this point because I don't want to ask all of you to donate, because then I feel like I'm asking you to pay for the content, and that's never what this has been about. But it does help us do those things and keep the show going without having to do that. So anyway, if you're interested, hit us up and we would be happy to talk to you. And I think that might be all we've got. A little over 2 hours worth. You think that's enough?
I think it's enough for now.
Anyway, this should be out by the time you're listening to it. It should be no later than, say, Tuesday or Wednesday. And I hope that you really like the show. I have heard from a lot of you, so I want you guys again to flood Rania with all the compliments, because I know there's not going to be anything negative, because she fucking killed it. And it's like I've got Katie Couric or something podcasting with me all of a sudden. So we've got some cool, exciting things coming up. If this does become a 2-parter after that, we've got some ideas tossing around, one of which is all about manifestation and different ways that that can be done. One is about past life regression. But yeah, so we're going to wrap this up, and thanks for tuning in. Just keep in mind that these will drop weekly. We'll let you know if something comes up and that won't happen. And as soon as the website and everything is back up and running, we will make sure you're all aware. So thanks for tuning in from me and Rania. We hope that you have a magical week. All right.
Bye.